Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi isanin ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, as we prepare for the month of Ramadan, which, as many of you now know, is moments away. We're in the last day of this month, going to begin this evening, the first night, reciting the Qur'an and Salatul Taraweeh. I wanted to help frame the month, highlighting to you a very powerful combination. That's the combination of fasting and the Qur'an. As we have discussed in the past, Ramadan, the month of fasting, is also the month of the Qur'an. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an. He says in Surah Al-Baqarah, شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. This is verse number 185, which reads, the month of Ramadan, in which the Qur'an was sent down as guidance for humanity, as clear proofs of guidance and as the criterion. Ramadan is not only the month in which the Qur'an was revealed, but it's the month of divine revelation in general. The Prophet ﷺ indicated such when he said, نَزَلَتْ صُحُفُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ فِي أَوَّلِ لَيْلَةٍ مِنْ شَهْرِ رَمَضَانَ. The scriptures of Ibrahim were revealed on the first night of Ramadan. وَأُنزِلَتِ التَّوْرَاةُ لِسِتٍ مَضِينَ مِنْ رَمَضَانَ. And the Torah was revealed in the 6th night of Ramadan. وَأُنزِلَ الْإِنْجِيلُ لِثَلَاثَ عَشْرَةَ مِنْ رَمَضَانَ. And the Gospel was revealed in the 13th night of Ramadan. وَأُنزِلَ الْقُرْآنُ لِأَرْبَعٍ وَعِشْرِينَ خَلَتْ مِنْ رَمَضَانَ. And the Qur'an revealed on the 24th night of the month. This is narrated by Imam Ahmad. So we can see that Ramadan is extremely special as it is the month of revelation. And after explicitly mentioning the revelation of the Qur'an, in the very same verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on and He says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. He says, whoever witnesses the month, meaning Ramadan, they must fast. Again, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 185. And here in the opening of this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is establishing a direct correlation between revelation and fasting. It's as if He's saying, because the Qur'an was revealed in this month, you must fast. And so today, I want to take a closer look at that connection, a closer look at that correlation. And on the surface, the first thing that comes to my mind, the most immediate and obvious response, is one of gratitude. The Prophet ﷺ described acts of worship as expressions of gratitude. His extensive prayers at night, they would ask, why do you pray to such an extent? And he said, should I not be a grateful servant? And fasting in particular was something that he observed regularly as an act of gratitude. When asked about his fast on Mondays, he responded, فِيهِ وُلِدْتُ وَفِيهِ أُنزِلَ عَلَيْهِ. In Sahih Muslim, he said, it's the day on which I was born and the day in which revelation was sent down to me. So he fasted as a show and demonstration of that gratitude. And we can see this pattern reflected in other fasts, in particular Ashura. If you remember when the Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina, we've talked about his life extensively in this particular moment as well. And he saw that the Jews, they were fasting the 10th of Muharram. He inquired about the reason for their fast, and he was told that they observed this fast to show gratitude for the day when Allah saved Musa alayhi salam and his people from Fir'aun. And upon hearing this news, this explanation, he declared that we are more entitled to Musa than they. And so he fasted on that day, or encouraged his followers to do so, to fast Yom Ashura. And just as Musa alayhi salam fasted in gratitude, that too is essentially why we fast, to show gratitude for the salvation of those people. And now in Ramadan, we fast in gratitude for our salvation through the Qur'an. Not only will the Qur'an be an intercession for us, at least those who recite it. This is what the Prophet ﷺ indicated when he says, "As-siyamu wal-Qur'an yashfa'ani lil-'abd." He said that fasting in the Qur'an will intercede on behalf of the servant. يقول الصيام أي ربي إني منعته الطعام والشهوات بالنهار فشافعني فيه. The fast will say, "My Lord, I have prevented him," meaning the servant, "from his food and desires during the daylight hours. So grant me an intercession on his behalf." وَيَقُولُ الْقُرْآنِ, the Qur'an will say, مَنَعْتُهُ النَّوْمِ بِاللَّيْلِ, I prohibited him from sleep during the night. فَشَفِعْنِي فِيهِ, so grant me an intercession on his behalf. فَيَشْفَعَانِ, the Prophet ﷺ said that they will be granted that intercession on behalf of those they ask for. Brothers and sisters, when we think about the correlation between fasting and the Qur'an, there's nothing more beautiful than the example of Musa alayhi salam and the gratitude that he showed by fasting. Just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala split the Red Sea to grant Musa and his people an escape from Fir'aun's oppression, he is also split through the veils of darkness and ignorance to grant us a path to salvation, and that is the guidance of the Qur'an. The Red Sea stood as an impassable barrier, yet by Allah's command it parted, opening, leading the believers to freedom and drowning their enemies behind them. Similarly, the Qur'an is a divine opening, cleaving through confusion and misguidance, providing clarity and a way out for those trapped in the waves of worldly distractions and spiritual heedlessness. So just as Musa emerged on the day of Ashura, or he emerged on the day in which he crossed through the Red Sea to this shore of safety on the other side, we, through the Qur'an, are guided toward a shore of spiritual awakening where our souls find refuge in divine truth, the word of Allah Almighty. Brothers and sisters, in gratitude for this miraculous deliverance, Musa alayhi salam fasted, recognizing Allah's mercy in granting them salvation. And so similarly, we fast in Ramadan as an expression of gratitude for one of the greatest of all blessings, and that's the revelation, the Qur'an, which leads us from darkness to light, from bondage to freedom, and from heedlessness to divine presence. The correlation between fasting and the Qur'an doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop at gratitude, but it goes even deeper. In fact, we could say it's one of the secrets of this combination. As we know, both acts, reciting the Book of Allah and fasting, are forms of devotion, but they work together to purify the heart and elevate the believer. Fasting, it's not merely abstinence from food and drink. It's a means of softening the heart so that it can truly absorb the light of the Qur'an. In essence, fasting prepares the heart by freeing it from worldly distractions. As you know, throughout the year, our hearts are often weighed down by indulgence, excessive food and drink, entertainment, social distractions, and, unfortunately, sins. The spiritual masters of our faith remind us that the heart cannot be filled with the light of Allah while it is drowning in the desires of this dunya, like excessive eating. It's actually been reported on Luqman al-Hakim. He gave some advice to his son. Among the many beautiful advices that he offered, he said, "Ya bunayya, إذا امتلأت المعدة نامت الفكرة وخرست الحكمة وقعدت الأعضاء عن العبادة. This is related by Imam al-Ghazali in his Ihya, that Luqman the wise advised his son, saying, "Oh my son, when the stomach is full, reflection goes dormant. Wisdom is silenced and the limbs are restrained from worship." Fasting also removes the distractions from our lives and clears the heart's path towards Allah's guidance. Hunger, brothers and sisters, softens the heart. Our great masters explain that when the stomach is full, the heart becomes hard and lazy in worship. One of the greats of the past, Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, somebody that I've talked about extensively, mentioning some of the lessons from his life, he said, ثلاث خصال تقسي القلب. There are three characteristics that harden the heart. The first one, right away, he said, كثرة الأكل. Abundant eating, وكثرة النوم, sleeping too much, وكثرة الكلام, and talking excessively. All of these things lead to a hard heart. And so when hunger is felt for the sake of Allah, the heart begins to soften and it becomes more receptive to divine wisdom. Fasting also breaks the ego. There's nothing like ego to get in the way of you acquiring knowledge. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said himself. Those that are arrogant, their ego is too bloated. They're prevented from acquiring knowledge, especially that of the divine. And so when we fast, we put ourselves in a position to break our egos in order to welcome and receive that knowledge and guidance. It was mentioned by Badi' al-Zaman in his book known as Wisdoms and Secrets. He said that fasting in Ramadan directly shatters the nafs illusion of lordship, forcing it to recognize its servitude and exposing its helplessness. This act carries profound wisdom. One of them is that the nafs resists acknowledging its Lord. The nafs craves dominion, inflating itself with a tyrannical type arrogance like that of the Fir'aun. Even when it's disciplined or subdued, the root of this imaginary self-sufficiency remains. It does not break, nor does it submit except before the crushing force of hunger. The fast of Ramadan, therefore, delivers a decisive blow to the self's arrogance, breaking its defiance and unveiling its true weakness, dependence, and need. It teaches the nafs what it truly is. It said that Allah once asked the nafs, "Who am I and who are you?" And the nafs replied, "I am me and you are you. I'm the nafs and you are Allah." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished the nafs for such an answer and cast it into hell. Trouble, because the answer sounds rather rational. I am me and you are you. And after that punishment, he then asked again, "Who am I and who are you?" And once more the nafs responded stubbornly, "I am me and you are you," as if that was the only answer it could offer. No matter how much torment it endured, it would not let go of that response. A response founded upon ego. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala disciplined the nafs with hunger, leaving it to starve. And then he again asked, "Who am I and who are you?" And the nafs finally surrendered, saying, "You are my Lord, the most merciful, and I am your powerless servant." Brothers and sisters, without taming the nafs, we close ourselves off to Allah's guidance. A heart weighed down by arrogance will continue to feel self-sufficient, like a lost traveler who stubbornly refuses to pull over and ask for directions. But fasting, it's our opportunity to break that illusion, to humble ourselves before our Creator, and to rediscover our need in Him Azza wa Jal. So when we begin the month this evening, let's make the most of our fast, not just by abstaining from food and drink, but by unlocking its deeper wisdoms, so that by the end of Ramadan, we will emerge as better believers, truly deserving of the joy that comes with Eid. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضاه ونصلي ونسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Brothers and sisters, now that we've uncovered the deep connection between fasting and the Qur'an, what's the first lesson we should seek as we begin our recitation this month? If we want to prime our hearts to receive that guidance, we should know what it is that we're looking to get. And that lesson, it's not merely something that you learn, but it's more something that you must experience. And that is a spiritual awakening. Before we can truly absorb the guidance of Allah's words, our hearts must first be shaken from heedlessness. And to access this awakening, we must return to the very first of Revelation, Surah Al-Alaq. And this chapter is a divine call to awareness. You remember in the darkness of the cave, during this blessed month, the Prophet ﷺ received the words that would transform humanity. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Surah Al-Alaq. We've committed this to memory, many of us. It's chapter 96, verse number 1. This is a command, not merely to literacy. It's not merely a call to read. It's also a call of awakening. The Qur'an, if you know, did not begin with laws or stories, but with a powerful reminder of who Allah is, the Creator, the one who brought us from nothing, the one who sustains us, and the one to whom we will inevitably return. And after these opening words, Allah immediately warns us of arrogance, the very trait that leads to misguidance and sin. كَلَّا إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى أَرَّآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. He says, no, indeed man transgresses. Why is it that we transgress? أَرَّآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. Because he sees himself self-sufficient. That's the ego. I am me and you are you. The servant has yet to bend the knee and surrender. This is the root of ghafla, heedlessness. It's the exact opposite of spiritual awakening, or what the great masters call al-yaqadha, to awaken, to arise. It's the illusion of independence, the false belief that we are in control and we do not need Allah. But fasting shatters that deception. The hunger of Ramadan teaches us the same lesson that the Qur'an does. We're not self-sufficient. Our strength, our provision, our very existence are in Allah's hands. They are in Allah's control. And when the nafs is tamed by hunger, its arrogance is subdued, making it receptive to divine guidance. This realization is the foundation of a spiritual awakening. Awakening to the fact that we are not in control, that we exist under Allah's constant watch, and that we are accountable for our actions. In this very same surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us of those who reject His guidance. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى عَبَدًا إِذَا صَلَّى. He says, have you seen the one who forbids a servant when he prays? And then after that, a piercing question, أَلَمْ يَعْلَمْ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَرَى. Does he not know that Allah sees? Brothers and sisters, this is a wake-up call in the Qur'an, the first of revelation. Not merely teaches us that Allah exists, but it forces us to confront the reality that He is always watching. Nothing is hidden from Him. Every thought, every action, every moment is known to Him Azza wa Jal. Without this awareness, there is no awakening. There is no alarm to pull you out of your slumber. The heart will remain dormant. We will move through life heedlessly, absorbed in distractions, feeling distant from our Creator. But the moment we internalize this truth that Allah sees us, we arise. We step into this station of awareness. And the next step in that station of yaqadha is realizing that not only does Allah see all that what we do, but that we are moving toward Him every moment, ultimately accountable before Him. He reminds us of this, Inna ila rabbika ruja'a. Indeed, to your Lord is the return. Brothers and sisters, this reality the nafs tries to ignore. It transgresses, believing it's free to do as it pleases. But in truth, we are always moving toward our inevitable return to Allah. No action is hidden, no moment overlooked. Every breath, every deed, every thought is recorded. And one day, we will stand before Him. Brothers and sisters, if we do not awaken to this reality and put an end to our heedlessness, our arrogance will certainly be our downfall. So we have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let this Ramadan be the Ramadan in which we truly awaken. Let our hunger humble us. Let the Qur'an guide us. And let our hearts break free from heedlessness so that we may return to Allah as grateful servants. اللهم يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وصلى الله وسلم